All right, and welcome again to I Love Black People. And today we have an amazing, dynamic brother, brilliant, visionary, courageous. I mean, if I had any more adjectives, I would probably share them and maybe not do them justice.
Become a Prime member today by visiting iloveblackpeople.com and receive a free I Love Black People t-shirt, Black Survival Guide, and become a part of our I Love Black People network, which comes with a Global Safety Toolkit, Nomad Health Insurance, Pan-African certification classes, and so much more. Go to iloveblackpeople.com now.
That being said, I just want to welcome our good brother, Isaiah Jackson. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh man, thank you for having me, Sinclair. So glad to be on the show with you, brother.
No, humbly, it sounds like you someplace tropical, brother. Where are you at these days?
Oh yeah, down here in Barbados right now, trying to turn this into a Bitcoin island. But yes, traveling a bit for now. Had to had to get out the country just for a little bit, take a break.
Well, no, love it, love it. Well, good. Well, I know you. So, why don't you share your story with our listeners and kind of set this up so we can get into the good stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So my entry into Bitcoin was in 2013, and a good friend of me and yours, Sinclair. We both know Max Kaiser. He was the first voice I ever heard say the word Bitcoin. And if you know anything about Max, he's probably the best motivational speaker in Bitcoin, ever. So I just got lucky enough to hear him. And then the first black person I ever saw talking about Bitcoin was you, Sinclair. So you and Max were the first two to kind of entry me into the space. And the biggest thing with me was Bitcoin's creation came sort of out of left field. It was people talk about black swan events, and I think Bitcoin is the black swan event. Nobody was expecting it. I came out of left field, and my entryway into it was like most people. Bought it, read a little bit about it, started doing a little bit of trading. But the more research you do, the more you realize how valuable Bitcoin is. That's how I got into teaching about Bitcoin, as well as writing the book Bitcoin in Black America, version 1 and 2, and just finding ways that our community can benefit from this new technology, because we got to have a sense of urgency. It's the first time in U.S. history, and that's sort of how I got into Bitcoin and where I am now.
Well, first of all, I thank you for talking about that connection, but I think it's very clear the work that you've done and demonstrated has just been really amazing, and as a trailblazer, someone who's been places and doing stuff that hasn't been done before. I appreciate you connecting those dots, but the stuff that you've done, the book, I think just making sure our community is aware. I think you've done more than in any other technological industry. If we had more, Isaiah's in these other areas, AI, VR, I think we all would be much better. I think you are like the prototype of what it takes to actually to join tech and community. And I just wanted to say this, on the show, that you are amazing and a tour de force, like especially when we go through all these cycles and ups and downs and dealing with so much. For you to stay focused and be relentless, I think that's hard to see your relentlessness through the success you've had in communicating such a very difficult, sometimes insider type technology. I think with that being said, with your book, which will definitely be a book that will go down in history, what would you say is the why? Like, why? What made you so compelled? You could have done anything with this life because you only have one, but you chose to do this.
Yeah. So my reason why Bitcoin is important and why I've dedicated my life to it is simply because for the first time in U.S. history, Black Americans have the ability to own their wealth and to not be controlled by the same forces that have oppressed us in the past. I honestly don't understand a lot of times why Black Americans concede to the same people who oppressed you from before, and a form of that is the banking industry. Um, Black people are not indifferent to hard work. We work extremely hard. We built this country from ground up, and we were not rewarded for it in the same way that others were. And that is very simple. A few different things the banking system has done with inflation, the Federal Reserve System, all the way down to local banks denying loans, redlining, and just outright racism. All of these things have kept our community stagnant in wages, have kept us stagnant with growing wealth, and even a lack of information. I think people underestimate that. In the financial industry, it's pretty hard to find out everything you need to know to win in the industry. It's sort of hidden in college courses, or getting a master's, or working for a high powered investment bank. But with Bitcoin, the reason why is because the information, for one, is readily available. It's plenty of free information. I personally do a daily news show every single day, Monday through Friday. It's actually the longest running daily show in crypto history, and access to information is very, very plentiful in the Bitcoin market. And that's one thing I think that people don't understand, is that the ability to access the internet, learn about Bitcoin, learn how to buy it, use it, store your wealth. All of those things, basically got me to a point where I was like, hey, Black people need to understand that this is our chance to win, in essence, and to have a freedom that we have not enjoyed before. So that is why I'm into Bitcoin. That's why I stress what I do so hard. And as you said, being relentless. You got to be relentless, because Black people, if you go away for a week, they start questioning you, like, hey, is something going on? So yeah, staying through the bull and bear market, just being an example. That's my why, and I understand the sense of urgency we need.
Well, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think contextually, trying to get us to go from where we are now as a people and not being intimidated by the technology. I mean, our people are the original innovators. We started civilization itself. How do you see the
Yep.
work that you're doing with, your next book coming out, the Bitcoin Billionaires, I think, which is so brilliant. And again, I think when I watch you with your book and going out with the message, and I watched Lamar curating so many people in such a loving way. I mean, it's just, I think we don't. So many people who haven't been in different tech spaces don't appreciate the climate and environment you guys create for all of us that is not typical in other arenas. And I say that, in the blockchain space, now we're clear that Bitcoin is not racist, but definitely the space can be racist and closed off with a few white males or a few Asians, with it not
Right.
being inclusive. Everything I've seen you do has been inclusive to make it so that everyone could have access to it. What
Hmm.
what is your motivation for that? And how do we make sure that we can continue to create that environment? Let me say another way. I've even seen, people in our own community try to use these technologies just to get rich, to exploit, to take advantage, and scams and things of that nature. How do you make sure that the environments that you're creating, and how have you been so successful in making this something that is elevated and not exploitive?
Oh yeah. So it has to come from a genuine place. I think we have to start there. Like you said before, some people's intention is to get rich quick. To get Lambos and supermodels and bikinis walking around. I mean, that's fun and games. It's like a movie for some people, but for me, this is real life. And um, I just think that one of the things that motivated me to make sure that this message was getting out the way it is was going to conferences. And I'm sure you had this experience going to conferences and being the only Black person for years. It was baffling to me that something that was so open, it's open source, open information. Even meeting the people, they'll tell you exactly what you need to know. It was just baffling to me that Black people were not getting this message. So I knew that, me and Lamar, with making the Black Bitcoin Billionaires, for example, on Clubhouse, it is the biggest Bitcoin group in the world on Clubhouse. And the reason I think that has happened is because it came from a genuine place. We realized that Black people were not, at the forefront of this revolution. However, we understand that in our community, if we make it popular, if we make it hot, everybody comes running. And I think that's what we're starting to see. And that's why we give our information how we did. We educate as well as give away money. I've given away, I can't even count how much Bitcoin I've given away over the years, simply because not only do we want to teach you about it, get you some skin in the game, let you use it, let you see how it works. I think because we come from a genuine place that brings people back, that builds our community, and then we have basically a marketplace of ideas. So I think that was my experience, and that's why I think our message comes off as it does. And even with other messaging on other platforms doing podcasts, same message. I always tell people, get some skin in the game and learn from us, people who have been in the market for a while, not guys who have been in 6 months and made their first first little bit of money. But yes, I think it has to come from a genuine place, and I think I've definitely tried to do that over time, and will continue to do that for the rest of my life.
I think you impose a deeper question by what you just said, and this probably transcends so much of what we typically talk about. But even the issue of greed, GREED, and you remember you
Yep.
said that movie, Greed is Good. If
Yep.
you had decided to take what you knew and just held on to, and just accumulated Bitcoin, saved all those plane tickets, just took all that money and put it in Bitcoin, didn't give nobody nothing, you could have probably had so much Bitcoins. If you had just stayed in your basement somewhere. What do you think about in your journey where you've given, and so much of what we talk about is a store of value? How does that life path, that body of work, how do you see that in the context
Mhm.
of how much Bitcoin one could acquire? Maybe it's
Yeah.
a weird
So,
question, but
you know, good. Well, your net worth to me doesn't mean much without a network. And what I mean by that is, if you're individually rich, but nobody around you is benefiting, that's really boring and sort of selfish. Especially now, me being a family man, it just doesn't really work that way. So one thing I always set out to do in this industry was not only, increase my net worth if possible, but my network. And the network I have now is international. It's all around the world, people that I've helped in different countries, different states. And that has lended itself more useful than any money that I could have. I mean, I could have all the money in the world, but if you show up to an island or you show up to a state and somebody is personally your tour guide and somebody else can show you the best restaurants, or somebody else can show you the Bitcoin companies in the area. All of this stuff happens because of network, not because of how much money I have, not at all. So I always knew that going into it. And I didn't grow up rich, grew up very pretty low class in the hood as a lot of people. But money to me, I always saw how it corrupted people to do things that they normally wouldn't do simply because they think they need more money or they think they need to attain this wealth. And we live in an Instagram era where everybody is, basically seems like they're rich and everybody has beautiful pictures. But I understand that because Bitcoin is meant to be long term, building that network is paramount. So that was my thought and my approach. And you're right, I could have had plenty more Bitcoin, but that pales in comparison to the amount of relationships that have been formed over the past eight years, going on 9.
I think even like
Hmm.
living that life of connecting and being with the power of that network is amazing, and the relationships. I think from the work in the way you've done these are relationships. So I think that's pretty powerful.
Hmm.
Let's kind of talk about this latest bull run, if we want to call it that, because you've seen so many of the cycles, and even Elon
Hmm.
Musk and some of the things that have made the headlines. What are some of your thoughts? And I know, and please make sure you plug your show, which has kept all of us connected, and because I want to make sure our audience is aware that Black folks have been doing it and consistently, because a lot of times when they see it maybe on a CNN or some of these corporate media places, it's almost as if we don't exist. But like you said, you guys have been doing this and as partners for longer than anybody in the space. Full stop. What are you, when you're looking at some of these current
Hmm.
events? What are some of your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah. So first of all, I mean, don't get me started on Elon. It's just, first of all, Bitcoin doesn't need Elon Musk, and I think that is the realization that a lot of new people did not understand. They thought because billionaires buy it that it somehow made it more legitimate. When in reality, people like myself, you, Lamar Wilson, Nigel Roberts, Crypto Blockchain Fund, plenty of Black people in this space have been doing the work, have had platforms. We've had educational tools and courses and books available. And you're right. A lot of people get sucked into mainstream media, which is, your preference. But you have to understand, especially being a Black person, why would they give you the tools to your freedom? Why? There's no reason why they would give it to you on national TV. People like myself who have decided to go the alternate route and have my own independent podcast and my own weekly show, Community Crypto. I've done these things simply because the information is there. It's just you can't rely on billionaires to give it to you. And Elon Musk, right now, he still has bosses. Most of his business is created from U.S. subsidies, government subsidies. So he still has a boss. He has to come out and say what he has to say when he's told. Unlike me, I don't have anybody that runs me. I don't have a boss that's telling me in my ear, hey, you can't say that. That's the difference. So would I rather be who I am now and a free man versus Elon? Absolutely. Simply because I can get the real message out there and I don't have to flip flop whether or not I believe it or not. So that's one thing. And then as far as Bitcoin long term, I want people to understand that if you're going to get the information, you have to understand your source. And if your source is the same media that has demonized Black people for years, you should really look inward and wonder, why do I believe these people? Why is what they're saying relevant to me when in reality, the same demonization that happened with Black people for years is what's happened with Bitcoin. First, they hated it. Now everybody's jumping into it and loves it. I mean, we can bring up some old clips of them saying, what is a Bitcoin? And it won't last. It's a collectible. It's a beanie baby. It's tulips. And then they turned ship as soon as Bitcoin's value has proven itself. So after seeing three major market cycles and seeing the news that comes with it, I just want to encourage anybody listening to stop listening to mainstream media. They do not have your best interests at heart. And anything that they say should be taken with a grain of salt. In fact, I have what I call a contraindicator. Anything they say on CNBC, I do the opposite because I'm usually right about 90% of the time.
Go ahead. Now, I think what your point, and I think just what we've lived in as a life. When I, I'm an extremist. When I talk about white supremacy ideology, it's kind of an ideology that elevates idiots and minimize brilliance, like literally just to justify this false thing called race. It literally creates a whole bunch of fictions that just never ever were true. But yet they spend a lot of billions of dollars making me eat Big Macs, and I eat Big Macs, and I'm eating them, and they're not really the best way to eat beef. But yet they got them on TV and they got the little jingle and whatnot. And next thing you know, I'm eating them, and I'm thinking I'm doing something good for myself, and I'm hurting myself. So I think the point that you're making about how they'll elevate people, what was the Public Enemy? Talking about Elvis is a hero the most, but he never meant anything to me. He was straight out racist. The sucker was simple and plain. And a John Wayne. I think what's real is that that's what's real. Like this lie has been consistent, and we just got to stop believing it. Like, are they going to stop lying? No. Okay, no. Now that we clear, they're not going to stop lying. Let's just stop believing them. That's okay. That'll make us weird. Like.
Exactly.
The 10th generation of being lied to. At some point, we must say, well, you know what? Maybe they're not going to stop lying, but we can start living our own truth. And I think with the Elon Musk, I think what's interesting is that what he did to elevate and legitimize to some people, and that's people in our community and others. If we stay true to what we know is real, that moment, even whatever game he's playing, we can actually benefit. And I think part of what I'm learning with the judo or jujitsu of addressing white supremacy ideology is that if you know this is going to happen, it's not enough to say, I know. Okay, what do we do? Knowing that this is about to go down this way, how do we? It's just like the scams, like the whole thing with Dogecoin. Like if you've seen OneCoin, if you've seen the MMM, it's almost like, okay, all right, we're clear that this stuff is scammy and real, but that's not enough. How do we leverage what we know to protect those that we love and the things that we care about? And I think that's the part of it that, I know I'm still a work in progress, but being able to take what we understand at a macro level of this systemic issue that we deal with, even though we're dealing with it through a particular industry, that we have to use our insight, that third eye, to better to help our family members and friends. They may not have been through so many cycles as you've been, but now we're getting to the point where it's like pattern recognition. Like I'm not a genius, hell, but I done seen folks get beat like 5 different ways. Like, you know, a Ponzi scheme is a Ponzi scheme. You know, the hustle could be all kind of things. So I think what you're saying with Elon and how they even elevate, you know, Europeans as being super smart, and so that means everything they say is true. I think we can definitely learn from history that's not true. What are some of the things that inspire you in some of this current stuff going on? What are some of the things that are like, man, this is hot and new, and you know, I wish I had more time to even focus on it? Because sometimes the hot stuff, you know, when you're already, you know, like how people talk about sharing ideas and they think you're gonna drop your dreams and pick up theirs. Like, it's already hard to get the stuff that you already planted and put in the ground and get it, you know, harvested, to drop it. But what are some of the things like, man, if I had some more time, I'd be all over this?
Oh yeah. So the two biggest things I think that have happened, Lightning Network is very interesting. I've been deep diving in that probably the last year and a half. I have a couple Lightning channels available now. So Lightning, if I could drop everything and just focus on that, on building channels and getting other people to get Lightning channels, I would do that. I don't have the time, but I do understand that because of the layer 2 protocol, there is a point where I think there won't be a use case for most altcoins. It'll be like, okay, well, why would I use that if this is cheaper and faster and it's still Bitcoin? So I think that's the first big one. And as far as innovation, but what's happening right now is the second biggest thing. The kids. I think the fact that there are older adults who still don't get it. They still are combative against Bitcoin, or maybe don't understand it, won't take the time to. No kid under the age of 12 has lived in a world without Bitcoin. And I think that's very important for people to understand, that the kids understand digital money. They understand the gamification of money. They understand that, hey, I get on Roblox. I have a 9-year-old nephew. He was playing a video game called Roblox on the computer, and he just yelled out of nowhere. He was like, hey, Uncle Zay, I'm broke. Can you give me some money so I can build this house? And I'm like, how do you even understand you need money to build a house, to get land? You know what I mean? So they're much more advanced. And I think that people are taking that for granted. And I'm not. I want to be able, I believe there's a 14, 15-year-old out there right now that's going to eat our lunch, Sinclair. They're going to have all the answers we've been looking for and the solution to a lot of the things we've been saying. And I want to be the guy that teaches them, because you have to understand the next generation that's coming, they're not going to understand checks or banks, or why is it so slow, or why does this take 7 days to clear? That makes no sense. I can send money right now. So I think that is the biggest development in the space, is that the quote unquote kids of this space are about to go to high school. So that's why I'm actually teaching the Bitcoin Summer Camp this summer, so I can make sure that I reach out to them, as well as partnering with HBCUs to create blockchain groups, like we discussed on my show, Sinclair. HBCUs having blockchain groups, we a direct pipeline to this new innovation, this new company, something that did not happen in the internet age. We're just now getting around to Black people getting C-suite positions at these big tech companies. I mean, we may get some entry level, but not a lot of C-suite. And the reason being is, the entry into the space was a little bit later, but not with Bitcoin, not with this industry, not with the blockchain industry as a whole. We can be one of the first. It's only been 12 years since its creation, and I think that's the biggest innovation. The kids, man, got to pay attention to the kids. Can't teach the old dog new tricks, but you can definitely teach the newbies.
No, I think that's a very insightful point about connecting this to family. Even you building out your prodigy, and somebody was telling me, how do we deal with coronavirus and all these things that are happening bad? To have some more babies. Like, the biggest threat to this white supremacist system is us having as many kids as possible. So I always hear people say there's too many people. They always try to make it seem like it's too many of us. I say it's not enough. We need to keep building and growing. So I think the point you're making in that is super amazing. Have more. God bless. And me and my wife, we're working on that too. humbly. So I think you make an awesome example of that. How do you, as we're getting close to the end, what do you see though in some of these issues where they say Bitcoin and this energy issue? That's a little pet peeve of mine when I hear people bring up,
Oh.
how much energy. What are some of your thoughts on that, so that I don't sound like a loony?
Again, people, stop listening to mainstream media types that keep putting out this FUD, fear. fear, fear is basically making people come up with an explanation for a problem that doesn't exist. Because yesterday we actually just saw a report from Galaxy Digital. Shout out to Mike Novogratz, who runs it over there. They put out a report showing that banking uses twice as much energy as Bitcoin, and gold is right there as well, about 1.75 X. So you can find me on Black Bitcoin Billionaires. You can also find me at Bitcoin in Black America, where you can find the first and second edition available now. And as far as what I'm doing for the rest of the year, I will have the Bitcoin in Black America book tour starting in June. The first date is Miami at Bitcoin 2021, and we'll be going all the way through the December, as well as teaching, like I said before, the Bitcoin Summer Camp in July. I'll be doing that in my hometown of Charlotte, North Carolina. And the last biggest thing I have going is with I'm sorry, Black Bitcoin Billionaires. Each month we'll be doing something called Demo Day, trying to get investment into tech companies in the space. So working on all these things, got a lot going on. Definitely trying to keep it together, and I just want to make sure people can catch me. Also, daily, the Gentleman of Crypto podcast. That is on Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern on YouTube. Also available on Spotify. And last but not least, Community Crypto, my weekly show on Thursdays, basically showing people that usually don't get shine in the industry, showing real people in the crypto industry every Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern as well. So a lot of places to catch me.
Awesome, bro. Well, look, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your work. In these, I am because we are, and this means people like Isaiah doing the work he does. If it wasn't for you, bro, I wouldn't be me. So thank you, bro.
Become a Prime member today by visiting iloveblackpeople.com and receive our free I Love Black People t-shirt, Black Survival Guide, and become a part of our I Love Black People network, which comes with a global safety toolkit, nomad health insurance, Pan-African certification classes, and so much more. Go to iloveblackpeople.com now. Special thanks to Banneker Communities.